Hi, today we will talk about high-level process of training a model. In my last session, I have explained the basic prerequisite for training a machine learning model, which we called a training dataset, and I gave a small overview of that. So in brief, training dataset is a large group of good labeled examples. This group of labeled example going to be used by machine learning model to learn the patterns which can relate outputs and inputs. And when this knowledge is stored in some sort of system, we call this a trained model. The purpose of this trained model is to define closest relation between features and its target or output or label, anything we can say. This type of learning methodology is called supervised learning, and this style of machine learning is very common too. So why we call them supervised learning? Because this learning style used large dataset of labeled example, which allows learning model to build the patterns between inputs and outputs. Means data is already telling what is what, and machine learning model is building the pattern to achieve that. But inputs and their outputs are supervised in terms of features and labels. Now assume we have that trained model which is developed from the labeled example. Now what next? Once the machine learning trained model is ready with the knowledge inside that can return most closest label at the output for the user specific inputs and which is based on the developed pattern, we will use that trained model for our real use case. Means we will use that model in our application. Either it is detecting an object or identifying an animal or detecting a spam or predicting the price of any specific object, etc. These are just common examples. So to summarize, machine learning system has mainly two phases. First phase is called learning phase or training phase, where the labeled examples are provided as input and the system will build the pattern to find the best match and store that knowledge. This means creating a machine learning model. Second phase is interface phase. Once the training or learning phase is completed, we will have a trained model, and this machine learning trained model will be used in the real life use case and will respond to user inputs and will provide the needed results. So in one line, interface phase is utilizing the machine learning trained model in real life use case and for the productivity. However, I am just mentioning only one type of training style or method here so that you can relate it easily with the previous examples. Although there are different ways and different algorithms which are being used to build a trained model, and their use cases are also different. We will be discussing and learning all these kind of algorithms later in this series. In supervised learning style, this is equally important to remember that the responses in the interface phase, I mean when trained model is being used for real life productivity, the outputs are references of the training dataset. This means machine learning model must train itself regularly to develop better and more advanced model than its predecessors. This means learning phase runs in cycle, and machine learning model train itself with new data and will develop new patterns and store new knowledge for its newer version, which will be more advanced, more accurate and more reliable. By this repetitive process, model will create new patterns, will write new logics and will replace old logics too. Okay, now let's have some real life project idea and create a high level roadmap to develop a mobile application. The job of this application is that user will click a real life picture from his mobile phone camera and from this application, and the machine learning model will process that image and return the name of animal or bird or anything. Or maybe to simplify the job for this first project, let's reduce the complexity. Let's do not return the animal name but return the type of animal, like if it is a bird or it is an insect or an animal kind of. Okay, so if you are clear with the requirement, sit back and think a bit how to achieve this using machine learning. You can take a small pause here if needed. As I said, First phase is training or learning phase, and for that we have a huge number of examples as training dataset. This training dataset is actually lot of images with the labeled data. Means for each input the label is marked, like if it is a bird or it is an insect or animal. Maybe you can also have the name of animal, but let's consider this as an optional now because we are developing application just to identify the type of animal, right? So what you will need? You will need a powerful system to process those huge data sets. Of course, that would be expensive. So suppose it is happening in the cloud servers. Next day, all the dataset is processed and a trained model is developed in the data center. Now it's time to jump for the next phase, which is interface phase, means actual use case of application. There can be couple of ways to do so, like the mirror image of the trained model integrated in the application. So when user will click the picture, that image will process in the application locally, and based on the trained model, it will return the output as which type of animal is there in that picture. Note that we have only integrated the trained model image in the application. It's not set of labeled examples. So don't be confused. So in this scenario, at the interface stage, this classification is happening on the device level. So kind of offline application you can say, which will not need live transfer of data to servers while using the application. But suppose if you have been asked to develop some kind of online application, in that case, you do not need to integrate machine learning trained model inside the application and it will stay on the server. But the application users gonna change. So now user will take a picture. Now because there is no learning in the mobile application, so it will not be able to categorize it, right? Means to get the result, that image need to be sent to server where that machine learning model is present, which will process the image, and once it has the result what we are expecting from the system, it will send that back to mobile application and we will see that. Means this required live data transfer to work. Means mobile phones should have internet connection. Anyway, this was just the initial idea. There could be pros and cons of both type of system types like internet bandwidth, latency, scalability, application size, etc. In the upcoming session, we will be discussing on machine learning generalized model, and we will be discussing the core challenges of a good machine learning model and overcoming underfit and overfit issues. So stay tuned for the updates. If you did not subscribe till now, then please do subscribe to learn and grow community for regular updates. If this video is informative, then please like this video, comment on video, and don't forget to share. Thank you for watching.